Hi, I'm Phyllis Fagell. I'm a school counselor in Washington, D.C., a psychotherapist, a journalist, and the author of Middle School Matters, which is about raising and educating tweens. I happen to love middle schoolers. It's a distinct phase that often gets ignored in the research. And during the pandemic and social distancing, they're going to face some specific unique challenges. And I'm here today to talk a little bit about some steps you can take to help them have a smooth experience as they learn from home and socialize virtually with all of their friends. So the first is to keep an eye on their online behavior. When kids are stressed and when they're scared, they're not necessarily at their peak. And for kids who have higher social needs, they may, in a bid for attention, be more likely to post something unkind or to share a secret or to say something they might regret the next morning. And so we want to be taking these moments, not to shame them, but to help them understand why their behavior might not be appropriate or why someone else might be hurt, and to help them think about how they might handle the situation going forward. The second piece of advice is to consider that different kids have different social needs. Extroverts probably will have a hard time, but on the other hand, they also will be most likely to figure out alternative ways of connecting with their friends. Introverts may actually find that this period is a relief. They no longer have to spend all day interacting with their classmates and then come home and potentially have to interact with them into the night. And then there's a third group of kids, and this is the group of kids I worry about the most. And these are the kids who I think might already be struggling with loneliness or isolation because they lack the skills to connect. And this is an opportunity, and this is my second tip, to really focus in on what you can do to help your kids acquire social skills. We don't typically have the chance to really observe them interacting virtually or in real life to the extent we will right now. And so if you notice that your kid has trouble entering a conversation, or that they tend to interrupt, or that they do something physically off-putting while they're on the screen, you really want to be pointing it out to them as kindly as possible, but as directly as possible, perhaps giving them some tools to navigate those conversations better, or helping set them up for success by encouraging them to maybe play online video games with a friend or watch a movie, almost like parallel play with toddlers, to help them connect without the burden on that target friend of having to engage with them if they tend to be a bit too much. Which gets to my third tip, and this has to do with coping with the stress period. And the recipe for stress is something that is novel or new, something that's uncertain. There's threat to ego, meaning you don't know how well you can handle it, and you have no sense of control. And a pandemic really has every single one of those elements. And so this is a time when we want to be helping kids who are at an age when coping strategies don't necessarily come to them intuitively, develop ideas for how they can best manage those big emotions. We want to be validating how they feel. It's hard for them, it's hard for us. We want to be keeping it real. We also want to be staying calm. Emotion contagion is real, but at those moments when you're struggling, that's an opportunity to say, I'm having a hard time. I know I just said something sharp, or I let on that I'm really having a hard time today, and so here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go take a walk, or I'm going to listen to music. And you also want to be helping them figure out what it is that helps them feel better. Kids in this age group in middle school tend not to understand that feelings don't last forever, that they don't last at the same intensity, and they don't have a very broad emotional vocabulary. So you can also help label what they're feeling. You might say, you look like you're frustrated, or I can tell that you're disappointed. And from there, help them decide what they'd like to do with those feelings. Which gets to my next tip, which is to help them set realistic expectations, and to also set realistic expectations for yourself. So right now, everybody is in the midst of a pandemic. This is not something anyone has done before. There is no blueprint. No one knows what they're doing. There is no right or wrong. We're all iterating, experimenting as we go. kids are going to be perhaps struggling in ways that they've never struggled before. Someone who's a straight A student might have a harder time grasping material that's delivered online. Somebody who really needs the reassurance and connecting with a caring adult in person might have a hard time having all of those interactions be virtual or perhaps even all asynchronous. So helping them figure out what it is that constitutes success for them. And it could just be that they pick up a few new coping strategies and they do the best they can. No one is going to suffer any long-term negative repercussions because they don't learn every single piece of content. In fact, I will be surprised if anyone remembers much of what they learned during this time, but they will suffer long-term consequences if they don't feel that they are consistently loved and supported through this period. So my last parting words of advice are to keep in mind that you are doing just fine. There's no such thing as a perfect parent. There's no such thing as a perfect middle schooler. This will not last forever, even though at times it might feel that way. The disappointment your child is feeling is real. It's very hard to accept that we can't shield them from all disappointment, but the research shows that kids who are forced to endure periods of uncertainty tend to have greater flexibility, satisfaction, and joy later in life. And so there could be unexpected dividends. So use this time to enjoy their company, to get to know them better, to help them develop more self-awareness, and to really think about what it is that's important to you, paring everything down to the basics, and to help them really understand what is at their core and what will help them be happy now and beyond. And if we can do that, if we can maintain an even keel and keep realistic expectations, the re-entry to school when they do go back will be far, far easier. So I wish all of you luck, and thanks for listening. Bye.